Welcome to Crashes and Taxes. I am your host for this podcast, Rebecca Walser. I am so excited to be here with you on this podcast. It's going to be a great episode. On our podcast, Crashes and Taxes, we are challenging the status quo, specifically of crashes, taxes, and politicians. And yes, my friends, they are all related. And we will definitely get into that when we go through this podcast. I want to talk to you today about my book, Wealth Unbroken. You can get my book anytime you want from Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Target. Walmart had a new client tell me that they got my book from Target. And I was like, oh, how really cool is that? So today I want to talk to you about what's going on with everything that has been happening at the beginning here of this 2020 year. Because I have been talking for the last 6 years about some kind of massive market correction. Certainly not this market correction. Certainly did not expect this, what has happened. But I've been discussing with clients and people across the country as much as my national presence will allow me to. I write a column for Fox Business, and I'm on Fox Business, Yahoo Finance, Cheddar, and all various financial networks as much as I possibly can be while running a very, very big, busy practice. For those of you who don't know who I am, you're just joining, or you happen to maybe download the podcast and want to know, I am Rebecca Walser. I am a tax attorney and I'm a certified financial planner. I run a national holistic wealth management practice based in Tampa, but with clients all over the country. And we specialize really of challenging the status quo. We specialize in talking about, hey, does it make sense to do this way? Let's think about this. Let's dissect this. Let's discuss this. Let's really dive in. Dissect, discuss, dive in. And today we are discussing FOMO and what I call in my book the TwoBone Syndrome. The TwoBone Syndrome. It actually is an Aesop fable. So for those of you that are millennials listening to me, and I hope I have a lot of you, you probably don't know what an Aesop fable even is. It's like an old-time child's bedtime story that they have created and consolidated into a book of fables. Probably comes from, I don't know, I have no idea where they come from, but the point is, an Aesop fable is called the Dog and His Reflection. And really, it's about a dog who has bit the hand of a bully one day, and he takes a bone from the owner's table. He's at home. He takes a bone from the owner's table, and he runs off with this bone down to the river to eat it because he knows he's going to get in trouble if he stays out by the house. So he runs really fast down to the river by the house to eat his bone in peace. And he's running really fast, and he runs right up to the river, trying to get away from anyone who's going to chase him to get this bone. He stops around the edge of the river, and he looks down into the river, and he's holding this bone in his mouth. And so he's looking into the river when he sees another bone right there, right within his grasp. So now he's got this dilemma. Man, another bone. Wow, I really want this bone in my mouth, but also this other bone right in front of me. Man, this is looking really good too. And so he does what is in our human nature, even though he's a dog. He does what's in our human nature, which is he drops the bone from his mouth to get the bone that he sees right there in front of him. And what, of course, is the moral of this Aesop fable children's bedtime story? Yes, it was just a reflection of the bone he was holding. And he drops the bone he had in his mouth, chasing another bone that was merely a reflection of what he already had. This TwoBone Syndrome, as I've labeled it in my book, from this Aesop fable called The Dog and His Reflection, could never be more relevant than it is right now. and this 2020 situation that we've gone through. Why? Because, my friends, we had it. If you could understand the perspective of history and the fact that we literally hit a market high on February 19th, and within 30 days, we had lost more money in the fastest amount of time than we have lost in over 11 years. It is unfathomable. This has been such a fast and furious decline of the market, and unexpected and unanticipated, except for maybe by, the people over in China. So the point is, I have been talking to clients for the last 6 years, telling them you need to prepare for the fact that it is totally unusual to have more than, or even have a decade-long bull market without a 20% correction, which is a bear market. It is completely, totally unnormal, not normal. In fact, on average, we have a bear market recession every, several years. So we literally, almost to the day, hit our bear market to the 11th anniversary. March, basically of 2009 would have been 11 years, and we hit our high on February 19th, and then we dropped from there. So we literally almost got to 11 years to the day. That's how crazy this was. And we went from a super high, and we just consumed our lows as fast as possible. And I have been sort of saying, prepare yourselves, prepare yourselves, prepare yourselves. Kind of contrarian, because I do believe that President Trump has built some really fabulous fundamentals that we had. Unemployment numbers were excellent before the coronavirus hit. We had a lot of positive things going on. And all of a sudden, everything has just been decimated. So what am I trying to talk about to you today? I'm trying to talk to you about something called FOMO, fear of missing out, right? We used to call it in the olden days, before the millennials took it over and labeled it FOMO, keeping up with the Joneses. Like, oh my gosh, I can't do what you're saying, Rebecca. I can't prepare for what will come when it's bad or rainy by buying a raincoat right now, because the raincoat's going to cost me some money. And that money means it's not going to be outside in the sun while the sun is shining. Yeah, you need to take some money off of the sunshine and buy yourself a raincoat, because the rain will come, my friends. The rain will come. And in fact, the rain did come. So don't lose what you had in your hands for more than what you have, because you could end up losing what you already have. And that's the TwoBone Syndrome. It's just no other way to describe it. I am reminded that people chase everything, and they don't stop and smell the roses. They don't stop and say, let me take some gains off the table here, and let me realize some of my gains. And that way I'm sort of even hedging my bets, right? No, it's full on all the time. And it's interesting, because philosophy tells you that we are to, in our society, buy low, sell high. Buy low, buy into the market low, sell when it's high. But it has been high before the coronavirus. It has been high for so many years. And who among you has really sold out? Who sold out at the highs? I remember going on television and saying, look, if you're not going to take some gains off the table now, at the super highest highs, we were hitting record after record in 19. When are you going to take the gains off the table? If not at the highest highs, when are you going to sell? Oh, no, I might miss out on the top end here. Yeah, you might also miss out on the bottom end. And that's what you should plan on. That's why, we, at my practice, we really believe in a fiscal house model, which we don't have time to really dive into today. And I don't really want to talk about a topic that we just can't dive into. I just want to focus today on buy low, sell high, fear of missing out, the TwoBone Syndrome, and really Warren Buffett. I think we should get some Warren Buffett in here. Warren Buffett's, always great to bring in. And, Warren Buffett's number one rule, never lose money. His number two rule, never forget rule number one. So Warren Buffett, has a lot of wisdom, but the thing is, I track Berkshire Hathaway and their stock and their gains and their growth and what they've done. And when you look and you track Berkshire Hathaway, what you find is that, let's just exempt out this last correction that we're going through right now with the coronavirus. Let's just look at the dot-com bust in the early 2000s, the 3-year protraction that the S&P went down 49% on. And let's look at the Great Recession, where the S&P 500 went top to bottom down 57%. When you look at those two time periods and you look how specifically Berkshire Hathaway did, you know, it's a joke I always ask every new prospect that comes to my practice. I always say, hey, you know, they come in and they're like on some kind of guard or something, like I'm just like gonna pounce on them and, you know, try to say, hey, bring your money over to my firm. That's not how I am. If you've watched any of my TV appearances, read my book, listened to anything I've ever done, you'll know that, hey, you know what, if you want to do business with me because it's a fit, great. If you don't, also great, no biggie. But so they're always so defensive when new people come in, right? And so they always are like, oh yeah, you know, it's like, well, tell me about what you're doing right now. You know, who are you with? Are you self-managing? I got a lot of self-managers that come over and say, hey, you got a lot of other stuff that I don't know how to do. I want to come over. So anyways, are you self-managing? Are you with an advisor? Who are you with? What do you think? And I had this one guy once, he's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm with my advisor. He's my best friend. We golf every Friday. He's my best friend for 20 years. We live in the same neighborhood. You know, we're just super close, and you know, I just don't see that I'll ever be able to do anything and take my money anywhere else. And I was like, you know, that's really interesting. I wasn't really asking you that, but okay, let's go with that for a second. I said, so let me just ask you a question. You know, you just told me about your best friend and all these things. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so if Warren Buffett offered to personally manage your money for you for the rest of your life, and you had a choice between Warren Buffett managing your money or your best friend that you just told me all about, who would you pick? What do you think this guy says? Oh yeah, totally. He totally picks Warren Buffett. I've never had one person not pick Warren Buffett. Even in fact, I had one client once, became a client, who picked Warren Buffett over their own sister who was their advisor. So when I tell you that people always pick Warren, I mean universally every time people always pick Warren. And that's why they're shocked when I tell them that Berkshire Hathaway, under Warren Buffett's leadership, as great as it is, I'm not trying to knock it here, but under Warren's leadership in the dot-com crash, Berkshire Hathaway went down 48%. Like I remind you again, the S&P went down 49%. And under the Great Recession, the S&P went down 57%. Berkshire Hathaway went down 50.7%. So in other words, during the dot-com bust, the S&P went down 48. Berkshire Hathaway went down 48. So 49 and 48, 1 point of spread there. In the Great Recession, S&P went down 57%. Berkshire Hathaway went down 50.7%. And so what is my point about this? What is my whole point of telling you how the Berkshire Hathaway stock has performed under Warren Buffett's leadership during the last two corrections, exempting out the coronavirus? It doesn't matter who's managing your money. It could be Warren Buffett. If you're 100% in the market, your money is going to crash down when there is a crash. Because with the exception of bonds, and I'm not saying bond funds, listen to what I'm saying, with the exception of bonds, not bond funds, so exempting out bonds, holding bonds, exempting those out, if you're in the market and the market crashes, every single asset class, universally, with the exception of bonds, goes down. I don't care who's managing your money, doesn't matter, because that is the nature of the beast of the market. Don't get me wrong, I love the market. Love the market. Totally love the market. But I only love it to the extent that we control how much we allow to be uncontrollable. In other words, if you have every dollar that you have in the market and the market crashes, you cannot control your losses. If you instead build a plan, a house as we call it, and you have a controlled lid on the amount of uncontrolledness you give to the market, then and only then will you actually have a real plan. So with this podcast, I'm just so excited because we're going to dive in deep to all these subjects about market crashes, about taxes. My gosh, I could go off forever about taxes in a good way, in a fun way, in an exciting way, in a fun-filled, passionate way, which you're like, what is going on? Hey, listen, you want to save money and pay the least amount of your tax over your lifetime, yes? That's the kind of tax shows we're going to have. So super excited about that, and just really excited about crashes and taxes and really challenging the status quo of what is going on with our country, where the world is headed, and where we're going with it. So thank you for joining our podcast, and I look forward to further episodes to come, and talk with you soon. Take care.